This are report of Group 8.
Food Safety Regulation and Standards. Food Safety Regulation, karaniwang ginagamit ito sa pagkain para ilapat sa batas na kumukontra sa pagproduksyon, kalakalan at pangangasiwa ng pagkain at sa makatuwid ay sumasaklaw sa regulasyon ng kontrol sa pagkain, kaligtasan ng pagkain at mga nauugnay na aspeto ng kalakalan ng pagkain. Food Safety Standards. Ito yung pamantayan na kaligtasan ng pagkain ay tumutukoy sa mga formal na dokumento na naglalaan mga kinakailangan at dapat sundin ng mga pagkain o mga taga-proseso ng pagkain upang mapangalagaan ang kalusugan ng mga tao. Act or RA number 10611, also known as the Food Safety Act of 2013, defines food as any substance or product, whether processed, partially processed, intended for human consumption. Kabilang dito ang mga inumin, chewing gum, tubig at iba pang mga sangkap na sadyang isinama sa pagkain sa panahon ng paggawa at paghahanda at mga paggagamot. Policy. Ang kaligtasan sa pagkain at kalinisan ng pagkain ay mahalaga dahil tinatayak nito ang pagkain ng iyong hinahawakan at ginagawa ay ilig para sa pagkonsumo. Isang paglakbay sa ilalim ng Food Hygiene Regulation 2006 ang pagbibigay ng pagkain sa mga mamimili na nakakapinsala sa kalusugan. Objectives. Ang mga layunin sa kaligtasan ng pagkain ay ang pinakamataas na dalas o konsentrasyon ng isang microbial hazard sa pagkain sa oras ng pagkonsumo upang matugunan ang layunin ng pampublikong kalusugan tulad ng appropriate level of health protection or ALVIN. Advertising. Pinopromote mga produkto gamit ang mga mass media gaya ng TV. Ang nilalaman ng advertising ay ang produktong may kalidad at totoong produkto. Adulteration. Ang adulteration ay isang illegal na practice sa paggawa ng produkto. Ito ay pagdagdag sa isang produkto para maging magandang kakalabasan, subalit ito'y delikado. Authorization. Ito ay kumakatawan sa mga dokumento na may permission kapag ikaw ay magpapatuloy ng food business operation. Halimbawa ng mga permit, license, certificate of registration, certificate of compliance, at iba pang dokumento. Contaminant. Ito ay isang substance na nakakaapekto sa pagkain. Halimbawa, biological hazard. Kapag nagsasalita ka, yung laway mo tumatalsik. Ganon, pag tumatalsik sa pagkain, ganon. Nakakuha ka ng contaminant. Control measure. Ito ay ginagamit sa isang workplace upang mag-prevent ang panganib sa food safety. Crisis management. Ito ay nagpaplano sila kung paano nila ma-action ang isang panganib sa isang workplace. Food. Ito yung produkto na tayo natutunawan at hindi tayo natutunawan. Ang pagkain ay ginagawa sa manufacture, food preparation at treatment. Feed. Ito yung mga healthy nutrition diet para ma-maintain ang kalusugan ng mga hayop upang ang mga produkto ay maganda ang kalalabasan ng kalidad nito gaya ng meat, milk, eggs. Foodborne illnesses. Ito ang mga sakit na nakukuha sa pagkain, maaari itong mahawa at pumasok sa ating katawan. Food business. Ito ay mga business na nagbebenta sa pribado at publiko na lugar. Food business operation. Sila yung nangangasiwa sa food business. Food hygiene. Ito yung ginagawa sa tamang paraan para ma-maintain ang kaligtasan sa katawan o sa pagkain. Food law. Halimbawa, sa Muslim, di ba kapag sa pagkain, bawal sila sa baboy. Kinakailangan yung produkto may tiyak na halal, kumbaga yung pwede nilang kainin lamang. Food safety. Ito yung kailangan yung pagkain ay kailangan din kung may mga expiration. Label. Ito yung dapat yung mga produkto na dapat laging tignan kung may label ito na nabibilang katulad sa calories. Kung ilan percent ba ang calories sa pagkain.
Article 3, Basic Principle of Food Safety. Food Safety Requirements. Ang food safety requirements ay nahati sa 4 na bahagi. Ang una ay sa pagtukoy kung ang pagkain ay ligtas. Pangalawa naman ay sa pagtukoy kung ang pagkain ay nakakapinsala sa kalusugan. Pangatlo ay sa pagtukoy kung ang pagkain ay hindi angkop para sa pagkain ng tao. At ang huli ay kung saan ang hindi ligtas na pagkain ay bahagi ng isang batch. Sa pagtukoy kung ang pagkain ay ligtas ay mayroong 5 hakbang. Number 1, the normal condition of the use of food by the consumer. Dito, titignan natin kung normal lang ba ang itsura ng pagkain, kung mayroon bang amag or may sira yung pagkain natin. Number 2, the normal conditions maintained at each stage of primary production, processing, handling, storage, and distribution. Dito natin titignan kung tama ba ang production, proseso, paghawak, storage, at distribution ng pagkain. Number 3, the health of plants and animals from where the food is derived. Dito i-check natin kung ang mga meat, ang hayop at gulay ay walang sira. Halimbawa na lang dito yung double dead na karne. Number 4, the effect of feed scrap, protection chemicals, and other production inputs on otherwise healthy plants and animals. Dito naman titingnan ang epekto ng mga chemicals dun sa production ng halaman at sa hayop. Number 5, the information provided to the consumer. Kasama dito ang label at kahit anong impormasyon na maaaring maibigay sa consumer. Sa pangalawang bahagi, sa pagtukoy kung ang pagkain ay nakapinsala sa kalusugan, ay mayroon 3 bahagi. Number 1, the probable immediate, short-term or long-term effects on subsequent generation of that food on health. Tinutukoy dito yung epekto ng pagkain sa susunod na henerasyon kung pangmatagalan or panandalian yung epekto. Number 2, the probable cumulative effects. Dito tinutukoy ang mga posibleng pinagsasama-samang epekto ng mga pagkain sa kalusugan natin. Number 3, the particular health sensitives of specific category of consumers where the food is intended for that category. Dito naman tinutukoy ang mga pagkain sensitibo sa kalusugan sa espesipikong kategorya. Sa pangatlong bahagi, dito tinutukoy yung mga pagkain pwede pa natin i-konsumo or yung mga pagkain wala pang sira o hindi pa bulok. Sa huling bahagi, sa pagtukoy kung ang pagkain ay ligtas, sinasabi na dapat isipin na kung ang parte ng pagkain ay madumi, isipin na rin natin na ang buong pagkain or batch ng kasama ng pagkain ay madumi na din. Halimbawa dito yung mga pagkain may mga kagat ng daga at nadapuan ng ipis or langaw. Article 4, General Principles. Food Law Objectives. Food law shall aim for a high level of food safety protection of human life and health in the productions and consumption of food. It shall also aim for the protection of consumer interests through fair practices in the food trade. Ang layunin ng pangkalahatang batas sa pagkain ay protektahan ang kalusugan ng publiko at interes ng mga mamimili kaugnay ng pagkain. Ang batas sa pagkain ay dapat batay sa pagsusuri sa panganib kung saan posible. Use of science-based risk analysis. Ito ay mayroon
Article 4, Responsibilities on Food Safety. Section 13, Principal Responsibility of Food Business Operator. Food business operator shall ensure that food satisfies the food requirements of food law and the control system are in place to prevent, eliminate, or reduce risk to consumers. Rule number 13. FBOs or food business operators shall be primarily responsible for ensuring safety of their food products and compliance of their production and distribution trading system to the requirements of the Act. Section 14. Specific responsibility of food business operators. Food business operators shall be knowledgeable of the specific requirements of the food law relevant for their activities in the food supply chain and the procedure adopted by relevant government agencies that implemented by the law. They shall adopt, apply, and be well informed of the codes and principles for the good practices. Micro and small industries shall be assisted to facilitate their adoption of such practices. Section 15. Principal Responsibilities of Government Agencies. The Department of Agriculture shall be responsible for food safety in the primary production and post-harvest stages of food supply chain and food locally produced or imported in this category. The Department of Health shall be responsible for the safety of processed and prepackaged food locally produced or imported under the category and the conduct of monitoring and epidemiologically studies of foodborne illnesses. The local government unit shall be responsible for the food safety in food business such as, but not limited to, activities in slaughterhouses, dressing plants, fish ports, wet markets, supermarkets, school canteen, restaurant, catering establishment, and water refilling station. The LGU shall be responsible for the street food sale including ambulant vending. The Department of Interior and Local Government, in collaborate with the Department of Agriculture, the DOH and other government agency, shall supervise the enforcement of food safety and sanitary rules and regulation as well as the inspection and complaints of business establishment and facilities within its territorial jurisdiction. Section 16. Specific responsibility of Department of Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture shall be responsible for the development and enforcement of food safety standard and regulation for food in primary production and post-harvest stage of the food supply chain. It shall monitor and ensure that relevant requirements of the law are complied with by farmers, fish folks, and food business operators, brewsant thereto. The Department of Agriculture Secretary shall ensure that the food safety regulatory mandates and function for fresh plants, animals, species, and aquaculture food of the Department of Agriculture agencies are clearly defined. The agencies under the Department of Agriculture with food safety regulatory function are the following. The Bureau of Animal Industry or BAI for food derived from animals including eggs and honey production. The National Dairy Authority or NDA for milk production and post-harvest handling. The National Meat Inspection Service or NMIS for meats. The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources o BFAR for fresh fish or other seafood including those grown by aquaculture. The Bureau of Plant Industry or BPI for plant foods. The Fertilizer and Pesticide Authority or FPA for pesticide and fertilizers used in the production of plant and animal food. The Philippine Coconut Authority or PCA for fresh coconut. The Sugar Regulatory Administration or SRA for sugarcane production and marketing. The National Food Authority or NFA for rice, corn, and grains. The Undersecretary of Policy and Planning, Research and Development or RD and Regulation. The Undersecretary for Policy and Planning RD and Regulation shall be provided with the necessary empower and funds from existing resources to ensure the smooth and efficient discharge of its functions. The Undersecretary for Policy and Planning RD and Regulation shall direct supervise the Food Development Center and the BAFPS and shall be the coordinator of codes activities of the Department of Agriculture and the codes contact point. Section 18, Specific Responsibility of the DOH or Department of Health. The Department of Health shall ensure the safety of all food processing and products packaging activities. The DOH through FDA shall be responsible for the overall regulation of all activities pertaining to processed food, including but not limited to inspection, licensing, registration, post-market, monitoring, and laboratory analysis. Section 19, Specific Responsibility of DILG and the LGUs. The LGUs shall be responsible for the enforcement of the Code on Sanitation of the Philippines, Food Safety Standard and Food Safety Regulation, where food is produced, processed, prepared, and or sold in their territorial jurisdiction. This shall include but shall not be limited of the following: sanitation, particularly in public market, slaughtering house, micro and small food processing establishment, and public eating places. Codes and practices for production, post-harvest handling, processing, and hygiene. Safe use of the additives, processing aids, and sanitation chemicals. Proper labeling of pre-packaged foods. Article 5. Food Safety Regulation According on Board or FSRCB. Article 5. Food Safety Regulation According on Board or FSRCB. Section 20, Power and Function. The Food Safety Regulation According on Board established the policies and procedures for decision-making and its implementation. This shall be carried out as soon as the Food Safety Regulation according to on board is organized. The Food Safety Regulation according on board, when necessary, may seek the assistance and advice of technical persons and other agencies on matters needed in food safety decision-making. Section 21. Organization. The board shall be declared by the Department of Health Secretary and co-chained by the Department of Agriculture Secretary. The alternate chair for the Department of Health shall be the FDA Director General, and the alternate co-chaired for the Department of Agricultural Secretary shall be the Undersecretary of the Policy and Planning, RD and Regulation. The members of the board shall be the needs of the Food Safety Regulatory Agency of the Department of Agriculture, the Director of the FDA Center for Food Regulation and Research, and representative field operator of the DILG with the rank of the directors
the needs of leagues of barangays, municipalities, cities, and provinces, and representative of each from the DTI and the DOST with the rank of directors. Directors of the other DOH agencies with food safety concern shall join the meeting as it may be deemed necessary by the DOH. Section 22. Accountability for the food safety regulations. The FSRAS of the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Health, in coordination with the LGU, shall be responsible in ensuring food safety at various stages of the food supply chain within their specified mandates.
Article 7. Crisis Management. Section 23. Rapid Alert System. A rapid alert system for the notification of a direct or indirect risk to human health due to food shall be established by the FSRCB. Itong Section 23, Rapid Alert System, ito yung isang mabilis na sistema ng alerto para sa abiso ng direkta o hindi direktang panganib sa kalusugan ng tao dahil sa pagkain ay dapat itatag ng Food Safety Regulation Coordinating Board o FSRCB. Section 24. Emergency measures. Where it is evident that food originating from within the country or imported from another country is likely to constitute serious risk to human health. Ito namang Section 24, Emergency measures, kung saan maliwanag na ang pagkain na nagmumula sa loob ng bansa o inangkat mula sa ibang bansa ay malamang na bumubuo ng malubhang panganib sa kalusugan ng tao. Section 25. Plan for Crisis Management. The Board, in coordination with the FSRAs and other relevant government agencies, shall prepare a general plan for the management of a threat to food safety such as radiation, contamination of food, food shortage, requiring coordinated action in other crisis situations which may compromise food safety. Ito namang Section 25, Plan for Crisis Management. Ito yung sa pakikipag-ugnayan sa mga FSRA at iba pang may katuturang ahensya ng gobyerno ay dapat maghanda ng pangkalahatang plano para sa pamamahala ng isang bansa sa kaligtasan ng pagkain, tulad ng radiation, kontaminasyon ng pagkain, kakulangan sa pagkain na nangangailangan ng koordinadong aksyon at iba pang sitwasyon ng krisis na maaaring makakompromiso sa kaligtasan ng pagkain. Article 8. Implementation of Food Safety Regulations. Section 26. Policies on Official Controls. Official controls are established to verify compliance with food laws and regulations and shall be prepared by each agency. Itong Section 26, ito yung ang mga official na control ay itinatag upang i-verify ang pagsunod sa mga batas at regulasyon sa pagkain at dapat ihanda ng bawat ahensya. Section 27. Traceability. Traceability shall be established for foods at relevant stages of production, post-harvest handling, processing or distribution when needed to ensure compliance with food safety requirements. Itong Section 27, ito yung ang kakayahang masubaybayan ay dapat itatag para sa mga pagkain sa mga kaugnay na yugto ng produksyon, pangasiwa pagkatapos ng ani, pagpoproseso o pamamahagi, kapag kinakailangan upang matiyak ang pagsunod sa mga kinakailangan sa kaligtasan ng pagkain. Section 28. Licensing, registration of establishments. Appropriate authorizations shall be developed and issued in the form of a permit, license, and certificate of registration or compliance that would cover establishments, facilities engaged in production, post-harvest handling, processing, packing, holding, or producing for consumption in accordance with the mandated issuances of regulatory agencies issuing such authorizations. Itong section 28 naman, ito yung mga naangkap na otorisasyon at ay dapat bumuo at mag-issue sa anyo ng isang permit, lisensya at sertipiko ng pagpaparehistro o pagsunod na sumasaklaw sa mga establishmento, sa mga pasilidad na nakikibahagi sa produksyon, paghawak ng post-harvest, pagproseso, pag-iimpake, paghawak o paggawa para sa pagkonsumo alinsunod sa ipinag-uutos na pagpapalabas ng mga ahensya ng regulasyon na nagbibigay ng mga naturang pahintulot. Section 29. Inspection of food business operators. Regular inspection of food business operators shall be performed by the FSRAs or the control bodies delegated to conduct the activity. Itong section 29, ang regular na inspeksyon sa mga operator ng negosyo ng pagkain ay dapat isagawa ng mga FSRA o ng mga control body na itinilagang magsagawa ng aktibidad. Section 30. Food testing laboratories. The following shall guide the management and operation of food testing laboratories. Itong section 30. Ang mga sumusunod ay gagabay sa pamamahala at pagpapatakbo ng mga laboratorio sa pagsubok ng pagkain. Ang pagsusuri sa pagkain ay dapat isagawa ng mga akreditadong laboratorio alinsunod sa mga international na pamantayan. Ang mga hindi kasalukuyang akreditado ay dapat mag-apply para sa akreditasyon sa loob ng isang tinukoy na yugto ng panahon.
So, in Article 9, Training and Consumer Education. So, training, skills training and needed to provide employees with the targeted training they need to gain the knowledge and abilities necessary to fulfill the specific requirements of their job position. For example, about the mechanics, electronics, competition, communication, safety, environment, and policy. Food businesses operators such as small restaurant, cafes, bed and breakfast shop, etc. And letter B, food handlers of food businesses are needed to undergo training about the food safety and policy. And letter C, government personnel such employee working in DOH should have knowledge about it. And 32, consumer education. A consumer education, this refers to the right which protect the consumer from large companies that sell product and services. For instance, they provide resources and information that inform the consumer of such things as price and trade practices. In 33, funding. There is a allocated fund for the development and training implementation regarding consumer education.
investigate outbreak, the control them so more people do not get sick in the outbreak, and to learn how to prevent similar outbreak from happening in the future. Thank you. In Article 10, Foodborne Illnesses and Monitoring Surveillance Research. So the primary goal of surveillance for foodborne disease or illnesses and outbreak is to be able from identification of any unusual cluster of disease potentially transmitted through food, which might require a public health investigation as well as response. And 34, foodborne illnesses monitoring and surveillance. The government in support of risk analysis shall implement a following program. So in A, integrated foodborne disease monitoring system such as PALISNet, which is a national laboratory network that connects foodborne illness cases to detect outbreak. It uses DNA fingerprint for bacteria, making people sick to detect the thousands of the local and mal-state outbreak. And B, with the process of first hazard identification. Second is risk identification. Third is risk assessment. And fourth is risk control. Documenting the process, and finally monitoring and reviewing. So in 35, research. Research as studying and researching with the help of technology is important in order to mitigate future outbreak, to control them so more people to be saved from getting infected. So thank you.
Section 36 describes food, product and processing facility inspection, issuance of import and export certificates, laboratory testing of food sample and other pricing policy that are considered mandatory and may be charged by the DA, increase DOH and LGU. If applicable, fees must be calculated using officially accepted method of estimating the cost of activities and must comply with government accounting and auditing standards and regulations. Article 12, Section 37, Prohibition Law. It's illegal for everyone. Section 38, Penalty. Anyone who violates the provision of this law will be subject to the prescribed penalties. Section 38.1, The exacting rules of procedure in the administrative procedures of the FSRA shall apply to the handling of cases violence made under the law in this IRR. Administrative Ordinance No. 292 Administrative and Judicial Law is additionally applied. Rule 38.4 to Rule 39.2. Rule Section 38.2 Temporary Vacation enforced by each FSRA apply before or finding administrative procedures. Rule 38.3 Administrative section provided by law are in addition to those provided by other relevant laws that may punish the same conduct. 38.4 If you violate the law, it is IRR prohibition, both criminal and administrative procedures in court may be enacted. Rule 38.4 to Rule 39.2. Rule Section 38.2 Temporary Vacation enforced by each FSRA apply before pending administrative procedure. Rule 38.3 Administrative sanctions provided by law are addition to those provided by other relevant laws that may punish the same conduct. Rule 38.4 If you violate the law and its IRR prohibition, both criminal and administrative procedure in a court may be enacted independently of each other. Submission of administrative non-compliance and imposition of administrative sanction must be submitted to FSRA of jurisdiction. Rule 39.3, a FSRCB is organized by the Secretaries of DA, DOH, and DILG within 30 days of the entry into force of this IRR. Rule 39.3b, a temporary secretariat will be set up to help DA, DOH, and DILG secretaries identify members of FSRCB and prepare the first board agenda. At least 2 members of each department. Rule 39.3, function, obligation, and obligation that belong to the Rule 39.3 CFSRA but are currently performed by another FSRA under provision. Formal agreement of grant must be continued by the FSRA until transferred to that FSRA. It will not be. Rule 39.3D, the transfer and sanction of the former activities, tasks, and obligation will be prepared and approved by the first board of the directors and will follow transition plan that will take effect within 24 months of the entry into the force of the IRR. Regardless of this, the transfer and acceptance of authority, obligation, and obligations will take place within 24 months of the entry into force of the IRR. Rule 39.3 to 40 to 41. Rule 39.3e, the migration plan must include, among other things, Section 40 and 41 separation clauses if any part of these enforcement rules turn out the illegal or unconstitutional. The remaining provision will continue to be in full force.
Get